Hey everybody, it's low-carb and keto-friendly nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you the content I hope you come here for and what I like giving best, which is keto without the crazy. Today's topic is a viewer request. Remember, if you have a topic you would like me to get to, you can either leave me a comment. I can't guarantee that I'll see if you leave a comment, or you can just send me an email, 2itnutrition@gmail.com, and let me know there's something you want me to cover. Before we get into the topic, remember this coming Saturday, March 14th, I will be in Winchester, Virginia. It's just about 90 minutes west of Washington, D.C. I will be there speaking at an event from the company Adapt Your Life, adaptyourlife.com, and Dr. Eric Westman will be there. There's a nutritionist named Jackie Shoemaker who will be there, a doctor, Pavel Klein. So some local to the Winchester area, local keto-friendly medical and nutrition professionals will be there. As always, there'll be plenty of links down below. So there'll be a link to the event where you can buy tickets and find out more info. And what else? After that, I think the next event I'll be at is in Salt Lake City, Utah, or more specifically Sandy, Utah. I'll be speaking at Keto Salt Lake. Info below on that as well. Remember, my new book, The Stall Slayer, hopefully coming out very, very soon. It has been incredibly delayed. I hope to have it out soon. It's just going to be a PDF to start with. You can download the PDF. You can print it out if you want to have a hard copy version, but I hope to have a print on demand coming sometime later. There'll be a link to download a free preview. So if you want to read the intro to the book, there will be a link to download a free sneak peek. All right, shut up, Amy, get into business. And it's haven't even made 2 minutes yet of banter. Okay, today's topic is keto for the seasoned ladies out there. Keto for the women of a certain age, as we say. And let's see. To the fan who proposed this topic, A, thank you for the suggestion, and B, I did reply to her and I said, you know, I can talk about it, but I'm 41 years old. I don't really have a whole lot of experience with some of the issues that we face in our seasoned / somewhat older years. So she said, that's okay. I'd just like to hear your thoughts anyway. Okay, so here are my thoughts as a woman who is 41. I'll be 42 in July. So I may not know a whole lot about much of this now, but it is staring me right in the face, isn't it? Because these years sure turn quickly, and soon enough I will be perimenopausal, premenopausal, and menopausal, and then postmenopausal. So let's see, where do I start? I have no notes, so this is going to be a little messy, a little disjointed. First, I will say that there are lots and lots of older, seasoned, experienced ladies out there talking about keto. You just might not be aware of them. You know, I looked on Amazon and there are numerous books that are like keto after 50, you know, keto for older ladies, whatever they call it. Now, I can't vouch for any of them because I haven't read any of them. So I'm not comfortable recommending for you something that I don't know, I haven't read it, I don't trust it, I can't stand by the content because I don't know what's in it. So I will, however, recommend that you check out the work of two women who I know personally and love dearly, who are postmenopausal, who are doing keto, having fabulous success, and all the good stuff that comes with it. The first one, you've heard me mention her many times on videos in the past, I'm sure. Her name is Casey Durango, C-A-S-E-Y, Casey Durango, D like David, D-U-R-A-N-G-O, CaseyDurango.com, but of course I'll have links down below. She goes by Go Keto with Casey. You can find her on Instagram, you can find her on Twitter. She has a very, very robust Patreon community, and she is one of a few people who provide a lot of content for a relatively low amount of money. So if you can't afford to give someone $10 or $20 or $50 a month, but you can afford to give like $5 a month, she actually provides a fair number of videos and extra content for those, you know, lower amounts of money that most other creators on Patreon don't really provide for those tiers. So Casey is, I believe she's 61 or 62, don't quote me on that. She's lost almost 100 pounds, and she did it all postmenopausally. She discovered keto, I want to say 6 years ago. I think 2014. Again, don't quote me. You can read all about her on her own website. But she was well into menopause, before she did keto, before she lost all the weight. And her story, she's a cancer survivor, she's a mother of three, she's a grandmother of lots, and she was doing triathlons. In some of the talks that she gives, she shows the before pictures of her training for the triathlon while she's very, very large. Same as me. Some of you have seen my before pictures when I was doing marathons, right? Like I've only run 2 marathons, but I was plenty chubby at the finish line. So we both are living proof that all the exercise in the world isn't really going to get you anywhere if you are, I'm not going to say if you're still eating carbs, because some people can eat carbs. If your diet is not where it needs to be for your particular physique goals, then all the exercise in the world is not going to change that physique. Now, I was healthy, and Casey probably was too, relatively speaking. She might have been somewhat healthy just because of all the exercise, but neither of us was thin. Neither of us were lithe. We were both overweight. And so Casey now, again, doing amazing, amazing work. She doesn't mess around. Her YouTube channel, she just tells it like it is. Can you lose weight after menopause? Can you lose weight after 50? Can you do it after 60? Can you do it after 70? Yes. Now, the other person I'll recommend is Jackie Eberstein. And I meant to have my Atkins book handy. I'm not going to get up to get it. I did a video a few months ago on the Atkins diet and celebrating the life and work of Dr. Robert Atkins. And Jackie Eberstein was the head nurse, sort of his right-hand gal for 30 years or so. So she knows more about keto than almost anyone who is still practicing clinically today, meaning she still works with clients. And so let's see. Now, Jackie did keto / low carb long before menopause. Like, she was working with Dr. Atkins when she was much younger, and she was never overweight. I know Jackie and Casey personally, so I know their stories. Jackie was never overweight. I think she was always kind of on the thin side, but she had very, very severe hypoglycemia, reactive hypoglycemia. And of course, Dr. Atkins knew that's a carbohydrate intolerance problem. You need to eat low carb. She did. The rest is history. And so she didn't really lose weight as an older woman, but she has certainly maintained Jackie Eberstein is about yay big. She's tiny, and she has maintained this itty bitty weight all through, her later years. I think she's in her 70s now, and she is just cute as a button. And again, this big, that might even be too big. She might be like that big. But, can you be vibrant and energetic and healthy and have a zest for life physically, mentally, and emotionally and cognitively? Can you be firing on all of these cylinders well into your older age? Yes. And so again, let me kind of pause and get my thoughts here together. I'm going to talk about weight first, because I know, for better or worse, that is most of our number one concern. And so I'll talk about weight, and then I'll get into some of the other issues of, aging in the female body. So it's for some of us, some people go keto, the weight falls off, it melts off, and they're just happy and they move on with their life and they never have to think about it again. For some people, some of us, and I include me and us, it's harder. It's hard as hell to maintain weight now in my early 40s. I can't imagine how much more difficult it's going to be in my early 50s and my 60s and 70s and 80s. Oh my goodness. So you do have to realize that there is a reason it is harder for older women to lose weight than just about anybody else. It's harder for an older woman to lose weight than it is for a younger woman to lose weight. And it is for sure a hell of a lot harder for older women to lose weight than men of any age. Older men, younger men, men of any age. And before I forget, I am drinking out of my trusty I Can and I Will. It might be hard to see, but it says Go Keto with Casey. Casey Durango has some swag. So I did buy, and it's one of her, she has a lot of mottos that I really like. One of them is I Can and I Will, meaning stop eating carbs, stick to the plan, do what I said I was going to do, whatever thing you're struggling with, I can and I will. And I was topping it with, I've shown you this before, this little rubber silicone tomato thing that some fans got me as a little coffee cup warmer so the steam doesn't escape. And it's sitting on my $10 totally worn out, totally scratched up Mr. Coffee warmer, because when you are the level of coffee junkie that I have reached, you don't mess around. So yeah, go keto with Casey Swag. So men's bodies and women's bodies are different. If that shocks you, welcome to being awake, welcome to being alive, because you might have been dead or you might have been sleeping until now if you were not aware that women and men are fundamentally biologically different. And please know, I mean absolutely no offense whatsoever to anyone out there who is transgendered or identifies as some other gender. I don't know enough about to comment intelligently on that. But biologically, chromosomally speaking, if you are XY male, your body is physically, physiologically very different from someone who is XX female. I mean, you know, the sex chromosomes, right? Now, of course, I'm getting too far afield, but I would be remiss as a science-minded person if I didn't say, you might remember from like high school biology class, there are some rare genetic disorders where people are born XXY, XYY, X0, meaning only one X chromosome. These are things called things like Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndrome, Fragile X. There's all kinds of, just genetic abnormalities that happen during reproduction, during development. So I'm not saying you're only ever a man if you're XY, you're only ever a woman if you're XX. There are all these gray areas that just happen in nature with these genetic, abnormalities and mutations. Okay, moving on. Men and women are different. What a friggin' shock. So, we all know, like I've made that joke and I wish I could take credit. I didn't create this joke. I just spread it because it's so funny. Did you hear about the woman who went on a ketogenic diet? Her husband lost 20 pounds, because we all know men have a much easier time losing weight than women do. Now, are there exceptions? Yeah, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, as a general rule, it's easier for men to drop weight than it is for women. Even when men like half-ass keto, like they're still drinking beer, they're still going out with the guys for wings and whatever on the weekends, and they kind of do keto during the week at home, and they still lose weight. It's just the way it is. And so there's a reason why women's risk for osteoporosis, obviously, for cardiovascular disease, for that truncal, that central obesity, why all of those things go up after menopause. And a lot of that has to do with this very dramatic drop in estrogen, right? Our hormones go through a very, very dramatic change at that time. And it does make it harder to lose weight. It's not impossible, but it is more difficult, and you have to be prepared for that. And so what a lot of people find is that your version of keto, and you put the quotes around keto because we really should be thinking about it more like low carb than keto. Your version of carbohydrate restriction might have to shift as you get older. Something that worked for you in your 20s, 30s, 40s might not work for you in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. It's, again, general rule. There's always exceptions. Many, again, seasoned, I hate the word older, many seasoned ladies find that they have to cut back a bit on fat. And they have to either eat more protein, kind of swap out fat for protein, or just cut the fat and don't swap it out for anything. Just cut the fat. And so your total energy intake, and yes, for better or worse, we can think of that as calories, your total energy intake is going to be lower. Because here's the thing, and this, I got this from Casey. Oh man, I should have made notes. This is going to be so disjointed. There's something called the grandmother hypothesis in anthropology or evolutionary biology, whatever you want to call it. You can actually look this up, the grandmother hypothesis. And in a nutshell, I might be getting this a little bit wrong, but here's my understanding of it. Evolutionarily speaking, there's not a whole lot of reason for elderly ladies to be hanging around, right? Once you are out of menopause, once you are no longer physically capable of reproducing, of having offspring, biology, evolution shouldn't really care whether you live or die. In fact, it would be better if you died because you are not a drain now on your environment. You don't need to be fed. You don't need to be sheltered. You don't need other people taking care of you. You know, if there's an emergency in the tribe, they don't have to all slow down so you can keep up if you need to all walk away and escape some sort of danger. You know, it's almost like a liability having these elderly people around. So why is it that women can, and men of course too, why is it that we can live until we're 70, 80, 90 and beyond, you know, years old? And the grandmother hypothesis states that at least with regard to women, it's a net benefit to have older women around because of our experience with child rearing. You know, and I don't have children, I don't plan on having children, so again, this is just my understanding of the concept. If you're a mom, and I know this from my friends who are moms, my sister has 2 kids, you are very attuned to the needs of young little beings, young children. You know, you can tell from the sound of the cry. You know if it's a hungry cry, a wet diaper cry, a sick cry, like I'm getting a cold cry, whether it's a I want milk cry, whatever. You can sort of tell. And, you know, the moms develop that thing with the back of their hand. They can put that, oh, that's 102.4. Like your hand literally becomes the most precise thermometer in the world. They can like tell your exact temperature just by touching you. And then of course, by having older people around, it takes some of the quote unquote burden off of the new moms and dads who are exhausted because they're not sleeping. The mom has to maybe breastfeed or nurture this child several times a day. Maybe they don't have the time or the energy left to go hunt and gather food. So wouldn't it be great if grandma could go gather some berries and if grandpa could go hunt a deer, and that way the new moms and dads can stay back at the cave or whatever you want to call it with the offspring, right? You get what I'm saying, right? Having these people around, like, help take a load off. Let grandma hug and cradle the baby for a nap while mom can get her own nap for a few hours. I mean, we see this in society today. It's why the postpartum period is so difficult for women in the modern world, because we don't have this sort of extended family, or many women don't. You know, they're working, their husbands are working, and it's like nobody's around to help. It's all on them. So back in the evolutionary day, it's a net positive for the tribe as a whole to have older people around to take care of some of these tasks, the chores, whatever you want to call it. So that being said, if you are an older woman, you are past your reproductive years, Casey's theory is she's like, biology doesn't need me to be here. I can't be a drain on the system. It kind of behooves me to eat as little as I need to stay alive. And she doesn't say it that exact way, but I get what she's saying. And I don't think we should be like barely trying to eke by, like, how little can I eat and just have a pulse. That's not what life is about. You want to feel good. You want to feel well. You want to have energy physically, mentally, emotionally. You want to be sharp cognitively. And maybe we require more than the bare minimum of food intake that would just keep us alive in order to do that, right? But I get what she's saying in terms of, I don't have to gorge. If I'm not doing CrossFit 6 times a week, and I'm not hiking mountains every weekend, and I'm not doing all this stuff all day long, I'm sitting in front of my computer 8 hours a day, I'm recording videos, I'm doing whatever, I probably don't need all that much food. I don't need all that much energy because I'm not expending all that much energy. So I think it makes sense in an aging woman that you probably have to cut back on food, especially, again, we're talking about the context of losing body fat. You're not going to lose body fat eating the same exact amount of food you're eating right now. Another, shocking newsflash for you, I'm sure. If you want to get smaller, you can't keep putting in the same amount of input, right? So, I just knocked the leg of my table, so it's a little shaky. So it does seem to be that many women that are struggling with fat loss as they age have to cut back on fat. And I have to be clear, because people tend to misunderstand a lot. That doesn't mean you would follow a low-fat diet. And I don't mean to make you afraid of dietary fat. This is still a very delicious, higher fat, low-carb diet. But what you would aim to do is get more of the fat that occurs naturally in foods that bring something else to the table, literally and figuratively, like a fatty piece of meat, a fatty steak, a fatty pork chop, maybe even some bacon, eggs. You don't have to throw out the yolks. We're not afraid of that fat. We're not afraid of the cholesterol, but you don't have to live on egg white omelets just for the protein. Salmon with the skin and fat. So it's all this kind of stuff. What you would seek to sort of cut back on, again, if you're struggling with fat loss, if what you're doing now is working, keep doing it. If it's not so much, A, hold out for my book, The Stall Slayer. B, what you would stop doing if you're doing it now is adding lots and lots of extra fat, drizzling oil on things, melting lots of butter. Liquid calories first to go. If you're doing a coffee with 3 tablespoons of butter and coconut oil in it, What's in this coffee is an artificial sweetener. It's sweet and low. Yes, I use artificial sweetener. I use sweet and low. I use aspartame sometimes, and I use Splenda, but I use erythritol. I use monk fruit. I use whatever's handy, and this has some half and half in it. I do use heavy cream sometimes. I use half and half. I use a mix. I use it all. So, liquid calories, lots and lots of extra fat, nuts and cheese. And it's not that nuts and cheese are not allowed on a low-carb or ketogenic diet. It's just that they are very, very concentrated sources of fat. And if you are like me, maybe you're not, but if you are, you could sit down with a bag of almonds or a bag of macadamias or a bag of cashews or walnuts, and hand-to-mouth syndrome, before you know it, half the bag is gone, and you've gone through 2,000 or 3,000 calories when you intended to have a snack. And so it's easy to do the same thing with cheese unless you portion it out. If you sit down with that bag of cheese or that block and a knife and you're just cutting off sections, before you know it, oh my gosh, 3/4 of that whole block is gone. And the thing is, you don't even feel full. That's the problem. The problem isn't that you ate a very high fat item. It's that you ate a very, very large amount of a very, very fat dense item, and you're not even satiated. You could still now go have that fatty steak on top of the cheese and nuts, right? So that's kind of, you just cut back on that stuff. And that's number one. That's what we see a lot in the older ladies who are struggling. It's just too darn much fat. And this is why we absolutely have got to get away from this hit your fat macro. I'm having trouble getting my fat in. If you look back at my full list of videos, there's a video called There's No Such Thing as Keto Macros. Maybe I'll put a link to it. And I'll put a link to Jackie Eberstein's website as well. I forgot to mention that. She doesn't have a contact me form, but you can just see a little bit more about her. And both Casey and Jackie, I know, would agree with that statement. You just have to cut back on the fat. You do. And physical activity can help. Let's get real. Exercise, like I was saying about me and Casey both having been more athletic, and it didn't do anything to help us lose body fat. What I think has been shown is that exercise, whether it's cardio, something like swimming or walking or running or cycling, or resistance training, weightlifting, it helps keep weight off. Meaning you would tend to gain less weight, or if you've lost weight, it helps you maintain that loss and not regain. So I think exercise and sort of being active is very important as one piece of the puzzle. But, I know some of our beloved keto-friendly doctors have patients in wheelchairs or who are otherwise disabled that literally cannot exercise. And low-carb keto still works for them, even in the absence of increased physical activity. What I'm trying to say is, the more muscle mass you have on your frame and the more you use it, the more calories, the more food you need just to maintain that muscle. So it gives you more leeway. It gives you more generosity to eat the amount of food that you might want to eat just because you enjoy eating like I do. And it gives you a little more flexibility with regard to carbohydrate as well. Now, you might be perfectly happy living at 20 or 30 grams a day of carbs. If you want 40 or 50 and you don't want to regain any body fat, you might need to put on some muscle. And ladies, we neglect building muscle mass at our peril. There is a reason why growing older can be such a, pardon the language, shit show. And yes, a lot of it has to do with those hormonal changes. But a lot of it also has to do with the fact that so many of us enter the perimenopausal years already very sick and weak and debilitated. And what do I mean by sick and weak and debilitated? I mean, we enter it already having prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, PCOS, depression, anxiety, fatigue, joint pain, migraines, all of these things, and we enter it maybe not as active as we could be. We enter it not having a lot of muscle mass either because we didn't enjoy working out, or maybe we were cardio queens. We didn't want to pump that iron. We didn't want to lift those weights. We were perfectly happy spending an hour on the treadmill. Many people also just life stress. If you are raising 2 or 3 or 4 kids and you're working and your husband's working or your spouse or whatever, your significant other's working, where do you find time to take care of yourself? Like, so this isn't a blame, shame thing. This isn't like it happens. But the healthier and the stronger and the more robust you can be physically, mentally, emotionally, and cognitively entering into that transition, that good old change of life, the smoother your transition will be. Now, there's no guarantee, because Jackie, I know, had a hell of a time, and Jackie was probably one of the healthiest people on the planet going into menopause, because she was already doing low carb all those years, having worked with Dr. Atkins. She knew a world about helpful supplements and stuff, and she, according to what she's told me, even then, she had a hell of a time transitioning, really bad. I think she did take some hormone replacement. I think she might still be on hormone replacement. So if you find that you need that hormone replacement, take it. Try to find a doctor who's educated enough to help you find something that's safe and effective and reliable. I should be drinking this right-handed so that you can see the logo, right? There we go. There is absolutely zero shame, zero personal failure if you need a little help in the way of hormones. Whether it's progesterone cream or estrogen cream, I don't know how any of that works really. I tried a progesterone cream years ago because I had an imbalance thing. There's also some over-the-counter supplements that you can get that I'm somewhat familiar with. If I had a menopausal or postmenopausal woman come to me that I felt I couldn't help, I have 2 or 3 sort of people up my sleeve that really specialize in this stuff. In fact, maybe I'll put a link to their stuff. And they are very knowledgeable about some of these supplements that can help, things like calcium D-glucarate, things like diindole methane, things to either help get rid of excess estrogen, which is a problem for younger ladies, things that can help boost your own production, like just all different kinds of things. There are natural ways to do this. Sometimes that's just not enough. Sometimes you need the pharmaceutical grade help, and that's okay. Like I said, there's no shame. There should be zero sense of personal failure or feeling like you messed up because you feel like crap, and the only way to not feel like crap is to take an injection of some hormone. Take the injection. So that I started with fat loss. I'm kind of moving into the hormones now. But yeah, like I said, the risk for osteoporosis, the risk for cardiovascular disease, the risk for obesity. Now, some of that probably comes because, again, you're entering into the menopausal time already kind of metabolically unwell. It's not going to get better going through menopause. It's going to get worse. So the healthier, the fitter, the stronger, the leaner, the more vibrant you can be entering into it, the better you'll be able to deal with that transition. It's kind of like if you get into an accident or you contract some kind of illness, the healthier you are going into it, the easier your recovery is going to be versus somebody who's already debilitated and weak and sick, And I think part of the risk for the obesity and the cardiovascular disease is definitely the hormones. You know, estrogen plays a big role in weight, in metabolism, certainly in cardiovascular, certainly in bone metabolism. But the cardiovascular could be because of the iron issue. You know, there may be, I think they recommend people with something called hemochromatosis, which is like basically iron overload. Those people are recommended to donate blood every couple of weeks or months to get rid of sort of the excess iron, kind of like bloodletting back in the day, except now it's for a really good purpose and they can give your blood to somebody else. So if you are a postmenopausal woman, you might want to consider donating blood if you're eligible. There's a lot of people who are not eligible because of various medications or different things in their medical history, or, you know, even travel to certain locations. So, but you know, donate blood anyway, even if you're not postmenopausal female. Like, if you are eligible to donate blood, please do. You know what the Red Cross says, the life you save might be your own. I promise you, there is literally nothing but coffee in this mug. You probably think I'm drunk because I've got the monkey mind, like swinging from branch to branch, vine to vine in terms of topics. I'm just talking about things that happen to women after menopause. And I think part of the increased risk for the cardiovascular disease might come because now that you are no longer menstruating and you are not like literally losing blood on a monthly basis, you're not having that regular natural bloodletting you were having. So, you know, consider donating blood if you are concerned about that issue. And I think also as we get older, we tend to be less active. And like I said, exercise is not really a great way to help you lose weight, but it can help you keep weight off. So if you are already active, by God, stay active. If you are not active, try to get active to whatever extent you can. And by active, I do mean anything. I mean walking, biking, swimming, running, lifting, whatever you enjoy. But I do think it is absolutely critically important for women to build muscle. Build that muscle. If you want to be one of these women who's 80 but is still totally spry, you can get up out of your chair, you go shopping on your own, you're still driving, you're still carrying your own heavy bags, like that can be you. Or you can be the woman who's 64 and can't even get out of the chair, like without moaning and groaning and using two hands and grabbing onto things to lift yourself up and all this stuff. And again, no blame there. If that is your situation because of whatever reason, okay, start where you are. We can all improve no matter where we are on the spectrum. We can start right where we are and improve from there. The best time to build muscle and get fit was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. The next best time is today. Or if not today, the next best time is tomorrow. The next best time is as soon as possible. And what else can I say about the older ladies and the keto? I mean, I'll just reiterate, and you know, I'll see if I forgot anything. It is harder. It's harder to lose weight. And it's because of the hormones, definitely. It's because of we are less active. It's because during our younger years, when it might have been easier for us to build that muscle, we didn't. And it's a lot harder, you know, it's a lot harder to dig yourself out of a hole than it is to just never have fallen into the hole in the first place. And so if you're watching this and you are younger, a younger gal, do everything you can to stay healthy and get strong. And I do mean strong. Like, I'm not kidding when I talk about lifting. I think we undervalue muscle so much. And you don't have to have a six pack. You don't have to be ripped. You don't have to have those, you know, Michelle Obama arms or whatever you want to call them. But I think it really behooves us all to be strong, to have good balance, to like not fall over. You know, you want to have good coordination, and that's part of, if you do fall over, if you have the muscle strength, guess what? Then when you hit the ground, you can brace yourself and not break bones, not fracture a wrist, and then you don't break a hip because you were able to brace yourself, right, on the ground, or grab onto a chair or onto a table before you even hit the floor. Once you reach a certain age, a fall can be totally catastrophic. It can kill you, or it can debilitate you so much, especially in the lower body, if you break a hip, if you break a knee or something, where you will never get back the degree of mobility you had 2 minutes before that fall or 2 seconds before that fall. You might recover some mobility, but that could be the end of your capacity to live independently. That could be the end of your ability to walk up a flight of stairs unassisted. Do you know what I mean? That could very severely impact your ability, no joke, to sit down and get back up on a toilet seat. Like, these are things we don't really think about. I do not like lifting weights. I don't enjoy it, but I've gotten back into it recently after a long time off, because I realized that even for me, lifting, it's not even about the fat loss. It's not about the metabolic rate. It's not about having wiggle room for food. It's about living independently 40 years from now. It's about trying to not be a liability. This is going to sound a little weird, but a couple of years ago, there was that Hurricane Harvey, I think, in Houston. And I think that was the name of it, Harvey. The city was like decimated. I mean, the water, I couldn't even fathom what I was seeing on TV. Just endless amounts of water, people having to evacuate, some people having to walk miles carrying a child on their shoulders, carrying whatever belongings they could. In a catastrophic situation like that, whether it's a flood, an earthquake, some type of accident, I would like to be an asset rather than a liability. Or if I don't have the physical stamina or wherewithal to be an asset, at least let me not be a liability. Let me be able to escape the danger under my own power, so that way rescue workers, the cops, the firemen, the paramedics, what have you, can devote their time to the people that really cannot get out, on the people that are on crutches, the people that need wheelchairs, the people that whatever that actually require a physical assistance to be moved. That shouldn't be me if I have the choice to make it not be me. And of course, like I said at the beginning, there's exceptions to everything. Some postmenopausal women lose weight really easily. Some men don't lose weight really easily, right? XXY, XYY chromosomes, there's exceptions to everything. And so if, I don't mean to use the word liability, like if you were in a car accident and you're in a wheelchair, that wasn't your fault. It's not like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, like what did you do? Now you're like, no, like, please don't misunderstand. I don't mean to imply that. And hopefully anyone watching my videos knows me better than that. I never mean to imply that. I'm just saying, because there are people in that situation, all the more reason for those of us who are fully able-bodied to remain that way as much and as well and as long as possible. And so I often have these weird perspectives on things like that. I think of these like emergency worst case scenarios. Okay, how do I want to be in this situation? So what else can I say? I'm not looking forward to menopause. I'm not excited about it. I think some women have it easier than others, and I think some of that is just natural variation. Sometimes it just really, really sucks, and it's really, really hard, and I don't even know how hard it's gonna be until it hits me. And both of my grandmothers are deceased, and my mother is deceased. And so I don't really know how it was for the women in my family. And my mother had a hysterectomy when she was younger. So she went through menopause like one day she just, hi, I'm in menopause because I don't have any more uterus and ovaries. My sister is 5 years older than me, and I don't think, she said she's not showing any signs of heading into menopause yet. So we don't know how it'll be. But, on the other hand, some women ease right through. And I have a feeling that a lot of the women, these sort of like elegant, just like these silver, I think silver fox is a term for a man. I don't know what the term for an older lady who is like pretty hot, pretty good looking is, but these like silver, silver and golden goddesses, these older women that are just beautiful. I think they do take care of themselves, and they do make an effort even to keep up makeup and hair. And I know that's very stereotypical, but a lot of them are slimmer, and some of them are taller. They're very like slender. They have those long arms and legs. I basically have the body type that's 100% the opposite. I'm the short, squat, stubby little Jewish girl from New York, and then probably when I'm 80, I'll be the short, fat Jewish lady in Florida. No, because I hate the heat and I never want to live in Florida. But anyway, I have a feeling that a lot of the women that look very, very trim and slender into their older age probably never had a weight problem to begin with. And it may be that for some of us, the best we can hope for, and I hope this isn't true, but I'm just putting it out there in case it is, the best we can hope for is to not gain much in older age, or gain less than would be expected or predicted, like based on the other women in our family, or based on whatever, based on the average, like the average, which again is a total shit show. Like, maybe the best we can do is maintain. And then again, in a situation where the norm is to gain weight and is to become debilitated and is to have all these awful things happen, if you just maintain your weight, if you don't lose any but you don't gain any, you are actually winning. Because under circumstances where you would be quote unquote expected to gain and expected to have your health tank and to lose mobility, when you don't, when you just stay pretty darn okay, that's more than okay. That might be actually like very good, and maybe the best case scenario for some of us. What else can I say besides while I enjoy my coffee? I guess I'll just say again, if it's hard now, it's not going to get any easier. And that is goddamn terrifying. That is terrifying because, like I said, it's hard enough for me now, and I'm only 41. I don't know how it's going to be when I'm 61, 71, 81, God willing. I live to 81 and 91 and 101. So, do whatever you can do now to maintain your health, or to recover your health and then maintain it as best you can. If what you're doing now isn't working, and I am, talking about fat loss here, try something else. Try lower fat. If you're already doing lower fat, try higher fat, but make sure you are actually in ketosis. And I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, but some people think they're doing keto, so they're eating lots and lots of fat, and they wonder why they're not losing weight. And it's because you're not actually in ketosis. You're eating lower carb than most of the people but your carbs are still far too high for you to eat the amount of fat that you've been eating and manage to lose body fat. You're going to have to tweak something there. And definitely lots of information about that in my book, The Stall Slayer. And I didn't go into detail on the hormonal changes that happen because, to be honest, it's not my area of expertise. It's just not. I should know a lot more about it because it is coming right, down at my face in the next several years, but I'm just not that interested in those particular details. That might be it. But, certainly, if you're active on social media, there's plenty of people, plenty of older women doing keto and having great results, and just try to stay realistic. Should a 75-year-old woman expect to weigh what she did when she was 25? Some of you might. For some of you, that's natural. Some of your weight hasn't budged for 50 years. Okay. For some of us, it's going to be very, very difficult, if not almost impossible, to get back to our high school weight or our wedding day weight or whatever you want to call it. For some of us who might have been very heavy in our younger years, we're only going to get better with age, right? Like, we're going to look better, we're going to feel better, and so it's entirely possible if you were very heavy when you were younger, yeah, you can get back to your high school weight and probably get way under it as you age. So there's no absolutes here. There's no black and white. It's going to be what it's going to be. And if you are in this situation of being menopausal or perimenopausal or postmenopausal or whatever, just, know that it is harder. If you're finding it harder, it's because it is. It's not just you. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. It is true that if you've been doing a low carb diet or paleo or keto or whatever for many, many years, and you're thinking, well, God, I've eaten this way for 10 years and I never had a problem before, but now all of a sudden I'm 55 and X isn't happening. All of a sudden when I turn 60, yeah, all of a sudden. What worked for you X years ago might not work for you now, because your body quite literally is not the same. The hormones change so dramatically that, the way we eat and certain other things that we do might have to change as well. And whether that's your sleep, whether it's stress, other things going on in your life. I know for sure, I don't want to, I really focused on fat loss on this video because I know that's what most of you really care about, the first priority anyway, whether, rightly or wrongly. Other things, of course, we know what we use keto for can absolutely get better in older age, because I see on social media all the time, I see the keto doctors that I know posting patients, of course they block out the names and any personal identifying information. We see people in their 70s and even in their 80s not only losing weight, the weight is tanking down. We see the A1C coming down, the triglycerides coming down, the HDL going up. We see people with type 2 diabetes that have been on insulin for 20, 30, 40 years being able to completely discontinue insulin injections, of course for type 2, not type 1, being able to stop antacid medication, being able to reduce or stop blood pressure medication. And so this is not just a phenomenon that we see in young people. This can happen at any age. What is more difficult is the fat loss. And it's not in your imagination. It is harder and it sucks. But to quote my friend's grandmother, getting old is hell, but the alternative isn't any better. And if you don't know what that means, it's because the alternative means being under the ground. The alternative to getting older is not getting older, which means you're dead. So we should all prefer to get older than to not have the privilege, right? My mom died at 65. She didn't have the privilege of getting to 70, the privilege of getting to 80, 90. So if you are out there and you are of a certain age, we can and we will. And my hat's off to you, my non-existent hat right now, because I will be there in a certain number of years. And I'm gonna shut up now. Hopefully I didn't forget anything major. Think of all the money you get to save. You're not buying like maxi pads and tampons anymore. I mean, is that like the one silver lining, or that you can just go swimming anytime you want or whatever? I don't know. My period doesn't debilitate me at all. Like even before keto, I had much worse cramps, and I had like that hormonal acne, like once a month, like clockwork, I would break out. That doesn't really happen to me much anymore now, but even before keto, my periods were not debilitating. I could work out, I could go to school and go to work as normal. Some women, you're like incapacitated for 3 or 4 days. You can't get off the couch, you can't work. I don't know. And I don't know if we have enough data collected from women reporting how the menopausal transition is on keto versus not, right? Like if that would be a nice prospective cohort study to do. Let's take a couple thousand women eating the standard American diet and then a couple thousand women eating keto or low carb and see how they go through and see what it is. So that's it. 2atnutrition.com is my email. Again, check out all the links. You can download the free preview to the book, events where you can meet me at, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.